I think the comment Lane had, and what's great about the players is the communication with all of us is constant, right? Whether it's during game, whether it's during the week, even on days off, things like that. So that's been really, really good and productive for us. And I think a lot of it comes down to is, and I know Nick alluded to this too, is sometimes situational moments in the game where you're limited a little bit depending on where you're at, field position, down and distance, select plays, what the defense does at times. If they're a big edge pressure team, during certain situations that can dictate a little bit what you want to do. So I think when you talk about the situational stuff and or the predictability, you just got to look at kind of where the whole context is. And I think that's what kind of the last day or so, over the weekend things, we were able to kind of look at where we were, where we are, where we want to go, and what we know, we need to kind of do to go forward. And I think it was very productive. We had a good meeting yesterday as an offensive unit, and so I think we're in a good spot working forward.
After reviewing this weekend, where are you as an offense? What was your kind of, after gathering that information, where do you feel like you guys are?
I think, when you look at just the progress from the first game until now, each game has been very different going forward. And so when you look at just where we want to go, we know there's a lot of areas we want to improve on and be more consistent in. And so I think that's the biggest thing is just consistency. And it's our job as a staff to continue to put the players in the best position. And then we just got to execute it and work as a full unit together and continue to build and grow. I mean, last year we had some kind of weird things going on that we needed to work through and continue to throughout the year. I think that's a lot of teams that are in this spot right now. If you watch around the league, there's a lot of teams that are kind of still finding their way, whether it's personnel, whatever it is. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And we've got great players, and they're all into it, and the energy's high, and we know we can be what we want as we work forward.
Along those lines, how much feedback have you gotten from guys like Jalen, AJ, Devontae, Lane? Basically, I guess the collective of the players on offense. How much feedback have you gotten from them over the last couple of days about the offense?
They do a really good job, right? I mean, the communication, like I said, is constant. I think that's a big part of being a coach, whether it's a position coach or a coordinator like myself, is just constantly talking to the players because ultimately they're the ones out there, so they have a good feel for what's going on, what they feel physically and mentally. And so I think that's been great, the communication. There was, like I said, we had a really good meeting yesterday about how we want to work forward on some things and detailed some stuff out. So I think communication's a big piece of it. And it comes like with good and bad communication, right? So you got to have the feedback both ways, and I think that's where it's critical for all of us to grow, as an offensive unit.
Those conversations with players, how do you make sure that they know they're being heard and that you're going to maybe implement some of the things they've suggested?
I think they just want to see, and just like coaches, right, you're always looking for video examples or details or real true information, and each situation is very different. So you really want to have a concrete example of something or, hey, I feel this, is this what I'm seeing? Or, let's talk about it and kind of work through it. So I think you get a lot of detail with that. It's not just something that's said, there's more into it and there's more depth and reps and video that can kind of help you with the examples.
Kevin, I think one of the unusual things.
Jalen Hurts interception. Could you take us through what you saw on the play, and then to my novice eye, it looked like AJ was an option on that play. Is that true or?
Yeah, I mean the play. So how the play kind of worked was the coverage that they had. He had a couple options he could have went with, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out to hit John over there. But he was definitely onto what he wanted to do, and it's just something that it just didn't work.
Yeah, unusual thing is that there's times this offense looks so good, like those last two drives in the first half the other night, and then there's long stretches where you can't get back to that.
Yep.
What is that? I guess lack of consistency, the lack of sustaining the success. What does that say, and how does that happen?
So I think when you look at those stretches, and that's kind of where we've hit those bumps throughout games, up until this point, is whether it's a inefficient first down or an inefficient second down, and you get behind the sticks. That's happened to us a few times. And then when you get in those ruts, you get kind of like, okay, now we got to do this to get out of it, or we're in a long yard situation. We had a few of them happen the other night. We had an efficient run on first down, inefficient run on second down, and it put us in a third and long. And so when you get those, it feels choppy. And that's kind of what we looked at as well. Our third downs, we weren't as good in the game as we would like to be. And we've got to eliminate those third and longs. Third and 7+ around the NFL is tough, right? The defense is dictating to you at that point. So we've got to try to stay ahead of that. And that's kind of what's got us in these modes a little bit at times and not be as efficient as we could be, like you alluded to, and some of those drives were kind of on schedule and moving it forward and putting the defense in a position where they feel us rather than we feel them.
When it comes to, is this going to have to look different, or is it a matter of refining what you have planned on during the first 5 months? Well, I'm sorry, first 5 weeks.
I would say both, right? I mean, defenses kind of change as time goes on, and we have to change. We have to adapt each week and look at what we're doing, what we've done, and try to be ahead of them as best we can.
When it comes to half-field reads, what are the benefits of that for a quarterback, and what are some of the detriments?
When you talk about reads, each quarterback's different, obviously, and sometimes when you split the field, you're trying to speed it up for them if you can. I think it's getting a little bit harder as defenses have evolved to do that. You're getting a lot of different coverages that, used to sometimes get some indicators. Now it's very difficult, so I think the game's changed a little bit from that standpoint. But that's pretty much what you're doing. You're just trying to speed it up if you can, as far as, split the field in half.
You kind of alluded to this a little bit. Saquon said the other day that sometimes he feels like you guys need to impose your will more on them. Do you feel like that's been an issue in the running game?
I wouldn't say it's been an issue. I think, when you're in phase and we're on schedule, we're able to do that. But when you're not, it gets a little tricky, right? Because now the defense has got a different mindset. They give you more exotic things. It's not a advantageous look for the offense to just sit there and say, hey, we can do 10 different things. Now we're in a weird spot to where it's like, okay, we can only do a few things. They know it, so now we got to adjust a little bit. So I think that's kind of what we got to take a step forward and just keep putting the pressure on the defense and be physical with them.
Sorry, just to follow up, have you been, specifically the last 2 games, you've been satisfied with the amount of times you've run the ball, or would you like it to be more?
I would like to increase it, obviously, and some of that we talked about a week ago is those kind of RPOs that we kind of run, where sometimes the run's called and the ball gets pulled and thrown, and they've been successful. But yes, we need to continue to grow in that area.
Around Jalen for a while now. What do you find when there's a play that isn't up to the standard from him that is the best way, most effective way to coach him, the way that he likes to be coached?
I think the biggest thing is just our communication is really good in general, whether it's in that moment in game, whether it's looking at the tablet, looking at through the pictures, or just throughout the week, the preparation that we put into it, just constant communication. And he's great about coming over, immediately saying like, hey, this is what I see. What'd you see? And talking through it with him and the other guys. So I think the communication's been really, really good. And that's why I think you can see at times where things kind of work themselves out well.
What are you seeing as far as the inefficiencies on first and second downs that you mentioned? I think Nick talked about that yesterday as well. Like what's kind of like the biggest issue there?
There really, to be honest, has not been one specific thing, and that's where we got to just continue to do a better job as a staff and put the guys in position and then just execute it as we go. And that's kind of the biggest thing that we talked about yesterday too as an offense is like there's not one thing, not one person, it's all of us as a unit. So we just got to continue to grow as a unit to stay out of those areas.
To further on sort of that on-phase discussion, Lane had also mentioned adjustments. If some of the simulated pressures versus the blitz, you've had these really effective phases where you're really good, then it slows down. From that perspective, if you're on schedule, are you happy with the adjustments?
Yeah, I think when we look at the plays that we're on schedule, we're dictating, and we've had our moments where we've done a good job with those pressures and different things. Yes, we've done a good job. But with everything, to the earlier question, we got to continue to push the envelope, right? Because defenses will change and do different things and find new answers. We're playing a really, really good defense this week again, and so we've got to continue to push that to give them, new things and different things. And I think that's the way the league's going. If you watch around the league, there's a lot of this stuff popping up in games, the simulated pressures and different things. So it's, it's our job to just continue to work on it.
Can you talk about, to follow on the adjustments, just how much of those in-game adjustments are, I guess, organic versus contingency planning?
There's both, right? Because when you show up into a game, we have really, really good players, and you never truly know what a defense is going to do. So from week to week, you have like, okay, we know they can do this. They have done this in the past. If you've played them before, there's history. And some teams where you don't have a lot of history, you got to look at what the coordinator's done. So some of it is very, very organic. We've had to do that in the Rams game. It was very organic. And there's been other games where it's like, okay, we know they have this. We feel like this is coming and get ready for these adjustments. So it just depends on, each game's very different. But you do go into a game looking like, okay, this is what we think they want to do. But because of, our our talented roster, sometimes you get different things because they know they got to stop you in different ways.
Last one.
You personally, obviously, you've been here a while, you've been integral to Jalen's development. But now, as OC, you're kind of the man in the arena, you're constantly under the microscope, constantly getting critiqued. What's that been like for you personally, the things that come with the job?
Yeah, I would say it's not that much different. You know, it's, when I'm in the building, we're all together. You know, we know we're all in this together as a staff and with the players and as a team. So I don't think that's been really any different. You know, when I step outside the building, obviously that can be different. But, you know, we're all in here together. And, you know, it's a fun challenge. I love my job, just like we all do. And we want to win. And we'll do anything, you know, we have to win the game.